snapping like twigs in an ice storm. Only her breasts, swollen with milk, seemed to radiate a dull heat. She felt them start to prickle. Time to nurse. She quickened her pace, turning the corner onto 47th Street, her whole body aching now for her baby as she made her way toward the derelict apartment building near the end of the block, in which she shared a tiny walk-up with her sister. Had she left enough formula with Nadine? Her sister, she thought with a sigh, wouldn't think to go out and buy more. Ellie pictured Beth Ann fussing, her sweet doll's face going all red and crumpled as she squirmed in Nadine's arms. Ellie hugged herself, pretending it was Beth Ann she was holding, comforting. All evening, in fact, perched on a high stool in the stuffy ticket booth at Lowe's State on Broadway and 45th, punching out tickets and palming change through the slot, she'd had this feeling, a persistent unease that niggled at her like some sort of mental hangnail. What if that slight flush in her daughter's cheeks that she'd noticed earlier today meant Bethy was coming down with something? Measles or mumps or maybe even smallpox. Ellie felt her insides lurch, then she immediately got a grip on herself. "People don't get smallpox these days," she told herself firmly. "Besides, she's had her shots, so just calm down and stop fretting. You have bigger things on your plate, starting with how on earth you're ever going to save up enough money to move into your own place." On her earnings as a ticket taker, even though she put aside every nickel that wasn't for food or her share of the rent, it looked like maybe she'd be hanging curtains in her very own kitchen sometime, around the turn of the next century. But just thinking about it, a place she could fix up, with space for a second-hand crib and a real honest-to-goodness mattress, as opposed to the lumpy sofa bed she slept on at Nadine's, perked her up some. She actually felt herself lift up off the pavement, as if her sneakers had suddenly developed extra spring. She was going to make it happen somehow. Find a better job, find a way to go to college, maybe even find herself a husband somewhere along the way, though she wasn't putting any eggs in that basket. It just might take a while, that's all. And the one thing she had was plenty of time. She was only 18, for heaven's sake, though she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt anything even close to being a teenager. Passing under a street lamp, Ellie caught her reflection in the mirrored panel of a display window. She saw a tall, broad-faced girl with the strong cheekbones and fair hair of her Scandinavian forebears. A girl you'd expect to see on a billboard along I-94 at the Minnesota-Wisconsin state line, dressed in a dirndl and puff-sleeved blouse, welcoming visitors to the North Star State and reminding them to buckle their seat belts for safety. She smiled ruefully, stepping around a starburst of broken glass on the sidewalk. God, she was so far from being that image of apple-cheeked milkmaid it wasn't even funny. Little more than a year ago, she'd been valedictorian at her high school graduation, and now here she was, a mother. As much as she loved Beth Ann, sometimes it just didn't seem possible to Ellie that she could be anyone's mother. Jumbled memories of the night she'd given birth crowded into her head. The emergency room with its moaning, jabbering press of bodies, followed by the labor ward with its rows of curtained beds and onslaught of probing hands and cold instruments. Then there had been only the swelling rhythm of her pain, and at last, mercifully, her baby, sliding from her in a gush of biblical proportions. As her tiny daughter was handed to her, wrapped in a white cotton blanket like some wondrous gift, Ellie had wept. The feeling that rose up in her was like the cyclones that occasionally ripped through Euphrates, tearing away the roofs of hen houses and tossing pickup trucks 10 feet into the air like Tonka toys. Her joy was both awesome and terrifying. In that instant, as completely as a jar of preserves dropped into boiling water, Ellie's future had been sealed. She had become a grown-up. Time to stop crying over spilt milk. Jessie wasn't going to marry her, and Mama and Daddy weren't going to beg her to come home. Not after the fit Mama had thrown, quoting every curse in the Bible before literally hurling the good book at her. Except for Nadine, who was hardly able to care for herself, much less be of any help to her.